Hello and welcome back. This is Dawn with another video for Pink Fresh Studio. So today I thought that we would do something a little outside of my comfort zone, but inside my comfort zone at the same time. We're going to be using a bright color palette, which is not my norm, but we're going to be using florals, which is something I love. And we're going to create these little kind of like pockets filled with flowers. So when I first saw these blanket stitched brackets from the new STENCILS release, I immediately saw like the back pocket of a pair of jeans. That's just what first came to mind, and you know how it is sometimes when you get something stuck in your head, you just have to work it out. So that's what we're going to do today. Now I picked out my color palette of Candy Apple, Coral Reef, Apricot, Storm, and what is this, Olive. So that's the color palette I'm going to be working with. I'm actually going to end up with 2 cards today, but we're going to create the jean pocket on camera here. So the first thing I need to do is I need to ink blend a piece of cardstock in that beautiful Storm color. Now I'm using the 1-inch blending brushes here from Pink Fresh. I love these brushes. They're nice and large, so it makes covering a big area quickly very easy. And then they're also nice and fluffy, so you can get that nice soft haze of color, but then you can also build up to get a deeper saturation. Now when I'm doing an all over color like this, when I want to cover a whole piece of cardstock, you'll notice that I tap the ink off. I'll load the brush up with the ink and then I tap it off onto the mat there, and then I bring it to my paper, and then I can pick up any excess ink off the mat. So I end up using all of that ink, so none of it's wasted. Now I am right-handed, so I like to blend right to left. I'll do half of this page and then I will turn the cardstock and come in from the other side. For some reason, this just helps me to get the smoothest, most even color application when I'm covering a large area. A lot of the times, if you're trying to start from the middle and blend further down the page, you'll get a hard spot where you're bringing your brush to the paper, but the combination of flipping the paper and by tapping off the excess ink on my mat before coming to my paper really helps me to get a more even coverage here. All right, so I'm going to cut both of my pieces here from this same piece of cardstock. I'm going to line up that first bracket there. This is the one that has that blanket stitch detail, and I'm going to tape it into place. Then I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to tape the slightly smaller with the clean edge here. We're going to tape that to the other side, and I'm going to run both of these through my die cut machine. Now I could have just used the blanket stitched one as my pocket. However, I actually end up creating like a little gift card holder here as well. So by having both of these, I can stack them one on top of the other, and then that's going to give me kind of 2 pockets. I'll have one pocket that I can slip a gift card into, and then I have the back pocket, which will allow me to tuck the flowers in. And I discovered this when I was doing a dry run with just scratch paper. I was just cutting them out to see how they worked, layering them on top of each other, and I realized that I could get like a twofer out of this. And I'll show you, because I am going to set it up to where you can put the gift card in it. I don't have any photos with the gift card in it, but you'll be able to see it in the video. So now I'm going to trim these down, and I'm going to leave that back layer just slightly taller so it has a little lip, and that's so I can visually see where the back is when I go to slip the gift card in. So then I had this idea. I'm in love with these little edger dies, these lacy edger dies. What are they called exactly? Fancy edgers. And I was like, okay, so you know how when you were a little kid, or if you have children, the pockets of the jeans would have like these little lace trims. And I was like, how cute would it be to put a little lace trim on this pocket? So I picked a couple designs and cut those from white cardstock, and this is going to be adorable. I absolutely love these edger dies. The blade cuts on only one side, so you can have the paper as long or short as you want, and then you just have this pretty little edge detail. So these I'm a huge fan of. So now I'm just doing a little dry run here and testing out my pieces. I've got my pocket, I've got my lace trim detail there, and then I need the flowers to come out of the pocket. So let's go ahead and work on those. And for our flowers today, we're going to be using the Sweet Blossoms die. Now this does have a coordinating stencil, so you can stencil your colors, then die cut that out using the dies, and it puts in all of the details for your florals and for your leaves and all of that. However, today I just want simple color, so I'm going to cut blanks and then add the color with ink blending afterwards. Now if you want to add blends of color and all of that good stuff, like the stencils are very useful for that. However, like I said, I just wanted to get these cut and then put in some just down and dirty color, just quick and easy. Okay, so after I've got them all cut, I just transfer them over to a sticky mat. This is gonna hold them in place while I apply the color. We're gonna have a lot going on this card, so simple florals are gonna be perfect for this. I'm gonna use one color on my leaves here, and that's gonna be the olive. I'm gonna use my large 1-inch blending brush here to just quickly get a base of color down. You can see here that I'm not being overly careful to make sure that they are solidly colored or all perfectly blended. I have a lighter green going into a darker green. Like, I'm just literally slapping some colors on these, you guys. Then I'm going to come in with the 1/2-inch blending brushes, and I'm going to add a little bit of deeper color here and there. Again, I'm not overthinking it. I'm just getting some color down. So here you can see I'm grabbing that 1/2-inch brush, and now I'm just adding deeper color along the stem and then the base of some of the leaves. Again, I'm not going for solid, even coverage here. I'm allowing for lighter and heavier saturation of this olive. It's going to make it look like there are more shades of green than there are, even though we're only using one color of ink here. And I'm going to repeat that same very simple ink blending for all of the flower heads themselves as well. So for the pink ones, I used the coral reef. Then for our yellowish flowers, I used that apricot. And then for like the flower centers, I used the apricot, and then I did create some little red flowers using that candy apple as well. So here you can see I'm just going in with the 1/2-inch blender brush, and again, just very, very simple ink blending here. I'm not even paying much attention to shading. If there's more than one layer on the flower, I might make the back layer darker and the top layer lighter, but other than that, just very simple color application here. All right, with all of my flowers colored in, it's time to assemble them. So I'm going to use an extra little grip mat here to the side to hold them. And I'm just going to transfer a couple of the stems and then put together the flowers. Now the back of the die here shows you their recommended way to assemble. I never pay attention to these things, and I just kind of put together whatever kind of flower that I want. If it's a multi-layered flower, I will look and see how it's supposed to go. But for the most part, I don't even follow half of those either, and they still turn out looking great. So don't be afraid to play around with the layers. When you put them together, you can get some really unique combinations. Now this particular one here, I think this might be a posy. I don't know. I don't even know that I've ever actually seen a posy in real life. Now I need to Google that. I am a gardener, and I do have tons and tons of flowers, but posies are one thing that I do not have any of in my garden, and I have never grown them, and I cannot say for sure off the top of my head that I've ever actually seen a posy. So I know what I'm doing as soon as I'm done with this video. Googling posies. I don't know. Let me know in the comments below. Is this a posy? And have you ever actually seen posies? It's a flower we talk about, but I don't think I've ever seen. All right, so to adhere these, I'm using a mix of liquid adhesive and then a very thin foam tape here. This is just going to add a little bit of dimension. I also like to use my fingers to just kind of shape some of the petals when possible. That's another great way to add a little bit of dimension to the flowers. All right, so once these are all put together, we're going to move on to doing another dry fit and see what else we need. And at this point, I wasn't sure exactly how I was going to finish this off. I knew I wanted the flowers in a jean pocket, and that's pretty much it. So here I can tell that this is looking good. I'm going to fill it out with the flowers, but the background is super plain. So we're going to need to do something about that. I decided to add some stenciling to the background. I grabbed the geometric tile stencil, and this I thought had just enough interest but wasn't too overbearing. There's still a lot of white space in it, so I thought it would be cute for the background. And I decided to do the lighter colors for the larger areas. So on this first stencil, I did the coral reef. And then for the second layer, I went with the darker green, and the third, I went with that apricot, and then the final layer, I went with the candied apple. So this allowed those brighter colors to cover more real estate, so it comes across a little bit brighter and lighter. But you can totally change up the whole look and feel of this stencil just with the colors and the order that you use them. Now, there is a little bit too much pattern and my flowers are getting lost, so I need something in the background to separate the flowers from that pattern. So I grabbed another die from the new STENCILS release, the nested elongated oval blanket stitch dies. And I'm going to use the second largest one here, and I'm going to pair that with the nested elongated ovals die. So I'm going to have two. I'll have the inner circle here, and then I'll have that nice blanket stitch around the outside edge, and it's going to mirror the blanket stitching on our little pocket there. And I went ahead and cut both of those from white, and they're going to layer on top of each other like so. And you could leave it like this and it's great, but we're going to kick it up a notch and we're going to add some texture. I'm going to use the Dotted Petals Better Press plate here, and I'm going to do some blind letter pressing. So that's where we run it through without adding any ink, so we just get the impression. It's just a nice, subtle, elegant way to add a little bit of texture. Here's another tip. So this cardstock is only 100 pound and it's kind of thin, and I want a deeper impression. So I'm going to lay a softer piece of cardstock. So it's a little bit thicker, and it's just a little softer. It's not quite as tightly woven. Craft would be a good one here. And I'm just going to lay that on top and run that through my letter press. This is just going to provide a little extra cushion and give me an even better impression on that thinner cardstock. So here you can see when I pull this off, I've got a beautiful impression. Because I'm not using the cotton letterpress paper and I'm using just regular cardstock, that little extra bit of cushion from that softer cardstock there gives it just enough to give us a nice, deep, beautiful impression. Now, if for some reason your machine feels too tight or you have trouble turning it through, don't force it. Remove a shim or two from underneath your platform and then try again. Never try to force it if it feels tight. All right, so now that we have all of our main pieces, it's time to go ahead and start adhering. So right here, I'm using a very thin foam adhesive, and this is to adhere that front piece to the back piece of our pocket. Now this is optional. If you don't plan on using the inner pocket here for a gift card, you could always just use liquid adhesive and adhere this directly to the mat there. However, I thought that it was a great little way to slip a gift card in. Now, there was one mistake I made here. I should have cut this foam adhesive in half. It's just a little too wide for the gift card to fit in horizontally, but the gift card does fit in vertically, and I'll show you that at the end once it's all put together. However, if you want to use it with the gift card in there horizontally, you're going to want to use a thin foam tape. So this foam tape, if I would have cut it in half right down the center to make it just a little thinner, it would have been perfect. However, like I said, in the end, the gift card still fits in there. It just has to go in there vertically versus horizontally. So here I'm going to go ahead and adhere that right on top, and that's going to give me just enough lift to slip a gift card in there. All right, so as I put this together, I'm going to go ahead and speed this up and talk you through it. So I didn't like the way the pattern was extending beyond the pocket, so I decided to cut the back panel down some. When I checked it again, I realized that I liked it better. It still wasn't perfect. I have to trim it down a little bit more. I double check it again, and I do like the way it looks like the pattern is tucked into the pocket as well. So it looks like kind of divides the card from the top, between the top and the bottom. I'm still not crazy about it at this point, but I do like it better than with the pattern extending beyond the pocket. So there's that. I do finally in the end come up with a fix for it, but I just want to walk you through my process as I'm putting it together because again, I'm creating on the fly here. I'm also going to cut this oval down just a bit. There's no need for it to be as long as the pocket. I can go ahead and trim off some of that just to reduce some of the bulk behind it. I'm going to go ahead and pop up our pattern here with a little bit of foam tape just to give it a little height and give it a little bit of drop shadow off that background. Again, I'm using the thinner foam tape here, so it's a lower profile foam tape. I really, really love having the low profile foam tape as well as a thicker foam tape. It just really adds a lot of variation and a lot of dimension to your designs. I highly recommend it if you don't have any of the low profile foam tape. All right, so I'm going to make decisions here about what to adhere flat and what to pop up. I do decide to pop up this textured layer on top of that mat, that blanket stitched mat, and then I will adhere that, the whole thing, I'll adhere that with liquid adhesive to our stenciled background. So we've got a popped up layer, a flat layer, and then a popped up layer. And then I'm going to decide which little lacy border I want to use on my pocket here, and then I will adhere that using a little liquid adhesive. So this is just going to be a little decorative trim here. Then I will use my guillotine trimmer and trim off the excess on both sides. And then I could adhere that pocket in place using a little bit higher profile foam tape. So you can see here I'm just kind of putting it in place, determining where I need to put the foam tape and trimming it down as necessary. So I want to make sure that I'm adhering it flat to the base of the card base here and not on top of any other foam tape. So I want to make sure that this lays flush. And by using this thicker foam, which is about the same height as 2 layers of that thinner foam, so the back of our stencil has a thin foam, and then the back of our little arch, our little oval there, has a thin layer of foam, so that's 2 of the thin foams. So that's going to need something higher to clear those, which is why I'm using the thicker foam on the pocket. Hopefully that makes sense. I've gone ahead and arranged my flowers here. I want to make sure that I've got them where I want them before I adhere my pocket, because I need to adhere them first. So this way I can go ahead and get them exactly where I want them. I'm going to remove that pocket. And then to make things easy, you could either take a piece of washi tape and tape the stems there at the bottom, or you can just lay your hand flat over the top like I'm going to do, and then just squirt some glue along the bottom and push the stems into it. So you can see here I'm just kind of working that nozzle behind the stems, squeezing in some glue, and then pushing that into place with my fingers. That'll hold them all in place well enough for me to come in now and pop some foam adhesive behind some of the flowers. So anywhere I want the flowers to lay flat, I'll use that I'll use the liquid adhesive, and anywhere I want to pop them up, I'll just add a little bit of foam tape. And again, I'm going to vary the heights of my foam tape. I'm going to use a lower profile one in some spots and then the higher profile one in other spots. So now it's time to tackle what I've been avoiding, and that's that those little white corners there at the bottom were bothering me. So I decided to turn this into a shaped card. So I'm going to go ahead and hold my pocket in place. I haven't adhered it yet. I still have the release paper on the foam adhesive. I'm going to grab a pencil and I'm going to trace the outline of the pocket there at the bottom, and then I'm going to grab my guillotine trimmer and I'm just going to trim off those corners. Now this is all adhered to a top folding card base, so this worked out perfectly for me. I can just trim off those little corners and turn this into a shaped card. Now I can go ahead and adhere my pocket. And with that done, I can move on to my sentiment. So I've colored another piece of cardstock with that Storm ink, and now I'm just treating that with an anti-static tool. And I'm going to go ahead and stamp my sentiment here in some embossing ink. And I did color this cardstock a little while ago. I knew I was going to be stamping on colored cardstock so that it would blend into the pocket color. So I made sure to ink blend that early and then allowed the ink plenty of time to dry so that I wouldn't have any issues when it came to heat embossing. All right, with that done, I'll use the coordinating die to cut out this sentiment, and that is pretty much it. So let's go ahead and take a look at the finished card. Or should I say cards, because I did make another one off camera. So here's the one that we created together, and you can see here we've got all that beautiful dimension, lots of layers, lots of interest. I absolutely love the way this turned out. It does resemble a little pocket. I love the little blanket stitches, how they kind of mirror that pocket detail, and then the little lace trim there. So cute, that texture in the background. Loved the color palette so much that I decided to create the second one here. And this time I used the diagonal plaid press plate in the background, and I inked that up using the same colors. Pretty much everything is the same here, except for, you guys know I love a good white on white card, so I left the pocket white. Look, who says they can't be a white pair of jeans? But here I wanted to show you also how that little top pocket there is functional as a gift card holder. So here you can see it fits in there perfectly vertically, and if I had used just a little bit thinner foam tape or cut mine down, it would have fit perfect horizontal as well. But a cute gift card would look great in there. All right, you guys, I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Hopefully you learned something. If you did, don't forget to give this a thumbs up. And if you're not already, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any future videos. I will have everything featured in this video listed in the description box below. And as always, I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.